So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Kelly George from Fearless Homeschool, and today we'll chat about starting the year well and in a way that will help you homeschool sustainably for the entire year. So here in Queensland, in Australia, the school kids started back today. So for us, it is not back to school day, which we normally do something fun for, but we've stayed home today because being in our own house is actually a fun novelty at the moment. And I hope that rain hasn't got too much louder. Sorry if it has. So let me know if you did anything for not back to school day. Hopefully the weather's better where you are. And so it's the start of the school year here in Australia. Everyone's starting a new grade. It's the time when many of us Aussies and Kiwis tend to start fresh. So let me know if this week marks the beginning of bookwork for you, or even the very beginning of homeschooling, which is a bit exciting and also scary. And I just realized too, after saying about starting a new grade, that I don't actually know what grades my kids would be in this year. I haven't thought about it yet. I think Gabrielle might be at year 11 age now, which is, wow, that's a bit full on. So her life is really different to mine was at that age. So I think she's drawing comics at the moment based on the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman, which is actually the book we were reading this morning that I got a bit into. So at the start of the school year, or at the start of any period of homeschooling, if you're looking at your schedule or your piles of books and you're thinking that you have way too much stuff to do and you're quietly freaking out because you can't see how you'll ever do it, then this method is for you. Now, registration is really bad for causing this because it wants us to plan the entire year out at the beginning and then follow that plan. But homeschooling is always evolving and it's changing, and that's okay. Like, in fact, that's fantastic. It's the best way to be because you're able to react to changes and tailor your education perfectly to what's happening at the moment. So here's what I want you to know about starting back. Don't expect to launch directly into full-time homeschooling. So if you're new to it, or if you've had a long break over Christmas, it's too much to get straight back into. You'll just become overwhelmed and you'll burn out. So I tell people in Zero to Homeschool to choose 1 to 3 structured activities to begin with. So that can be a maths curriculum or nature study or writing or science experiments or foreign language, anything you want to do. Just don't do it all at once. So I like to think of it like juggling, because homeschooling is a lot like juggling. We've got all these balls in the air and we drop them sometimes. But you wouldn't begin with 7 balls juggling. You would drop them all over and over. You would decide you'd suck at juggling and then you would give up. So fun fact here, jugglers actually start with just 1 ball. And then when they're comfortable with it, they add another and they practice until they've mastered it. And then they add another and another and so on. So another random fact is that the most balls successfully juggled is 11, which is pretty impressive. Okay, so Lisa's here and she said, "Hi, your audio sounds amazing." That's great. Thank you so much, because it's raining really heavily here at the moment, so I'm glad my microphone's not picking it all up. Tin roof as well. Okay, so I still do this slow approach whenever we've had a break. So we just do a couple of things to ease back into it, and that's after 12 years of homeschooling. And this is completely contrary to my personality because I'm a big things thinker. I like doing everything or nothing at all. So when we went overseas, we didn't go somewhere close or English speaking to try it out like most people do. We went to Europe and we didn't speak the same language or the local language for 8 months. And when we wanted to go hiking, we didn't do a puny 2-day thing. We headed off to walk the 3,000 kilometre length of New Zealand. And we made it nearly 700 Ks for our very first multi-day hike. So, like I said, all or nothing. But I find the slow approach really works for homeschooling because it's not just me, it's the kids as well. And although I might be really enthusiastic and slave driverish, they're the ones doing most of the work. So they get fatigued if I dump a whole big pile of requirements directly onto them. And homeschooling isn't a quick thing, unfortunately. Like, we can't just binge homeschool nonstop for 6 months and call it done for life. But, I think that would be really fantastic if we could. Right, so Renelle said they have a not back to school picnic in one of the parks in the area. And usually this means some nice foodie treats too. And if we don't get to that, we have nice foodie things at home. That sounds pretty good. Although we had Gabrielle's birthday on the weekend, so we're pretty full up with good food at the moment. But we're big on food for celebrations. So normally for us, the start of the year is not really any different to any other time of year. We just homeschool year round, and we take holidays when we need them or when we want them. So we just carry on with what we're working on. But this year is a little different because our life was pretty scattered last year. We spent over half of it overseas. In the time we were in Australia, I finished my degree. We had some pretty bad personal stress to deal with. And we also spent the last 6 weeks doing nothing but walking, no book work at all. But of course, the natural learning continues everywhere. I did think that we would continue on with some of our activities, you know, Duolingo and stuff. But let me tell you, when you're walking 20 to 30 Ks a day with a full pack, 7 people, like all you can do is walk. It blew my mind just how exhausted we were every single day. So since we got back from New Zealand, we have been easing into it and we're just doing our basic stuff. So we're carrying on with the tried and true stuff like Story of the World, the way things work, our languages, first language lessons, all the things that we're really familiar and that I can do without too much effort or thinking or setup. And because we haven't managed to tick off all our to-do lists any week since we returned, what with, you know, the driving across the country and finding a house and moving in and all that busy work, we're just stuck to those basics. So I researched and bought some stuff and I got myself organized, but we didn't actually do any of the new work because we were busy and tired. So last week, which was our first in a house, it felt nearly under control. So we just added in biology for Holly and Asher. And in a few weeks, we'll begin Matthew C from Maths Australia when we have the biology under control. So I'm eyeing off big history as well, but I know that it will probably be quite a while before we start it. And that's okay, like it doesn't matter. So we'll add it in when it is manageable. And that could be a month, it might not be until next year, but it doesn't matter because it will still be there. All right, now I might not be seeing all comments. I'll just have a little bit of a check because I'm keeping an eye on them as I go. All right, no, I think I am. That's okay. No more tech issues for me, hopefully. So if you're already looking at your 2020 schedule, or maybe you sat down this morning for back to school and you did all your work and you already feel exhausted by the sheer amount of it, then I want you to cut it right back. So you can cut it in half, you even cut it back to a quarter, or even just do one thing this week, but do it really, really well and do it without feeling stressed or rushed. And then if you can do that, add another activity next week. And the main reason is because learning, it just doesn't happen if we're rushed and stressed and exhausted. So there's no real point in sitting down and forcing it because we're just getting more rushed and more stressed and more tired and we're making it all worse. And that feeling flows into all of homeschooling and it creates resistance, both from us and the kids. So as an example, instead of thinking, oh, I've got 2 more maths lessons to do, it's Friday, Arvo, we're all really tired, we have to go out all day tomorrow. Instead of steeling yourself and forcing you all through it, it's actually much better to say, okay, we haven't done all of our maths, but we've had a big week, we're busy again tomorrow, so how about we have a few hours to read and rest, play Lego, do whatever we need to do to refresh ourselves, and we'll start where we left off on Monday. Because basically, if you cram it in, it just won't stick. It doesn't stick. So people don't retain information when they're tired and worn out and longing for a break. Like, you probably know that from yourself. So it's mostly a waste of time. You'll be going over it again in the future. And you're also dragging out that worn out feeling so that it lasts for longer. So lots of people say to this, oh, but we'll get behind. And my first thought is, behind what? Because as you saw earlier, I don't really pay much attention to year levels. But what I do pay attention to is mastery. And so that's something that we need to decide with all this busyness. So do we aim for getting it done to an arbitrary curriculum or textbook or schedule? Do we tick the boxes just because we've done them, regardless of whether it will be remembered? Or do we aim for mastery? So that means our kids actually knowing and understanding and remembering what they're learning and still enjoying learning and keeping their curiosity and drive to progress and improve their skills and knowledge. So when you start looking at homeschooling from a mastery perspective, it doesn't make sense to cram your days full of academic work or to push on when you're tired or to have stressful battles with your kids because you have to finish the to-do list this week. Like, it just has to be done. Now, all of those things tend to undermine mastery, and they turn learning into a rote chore, like something that kids sit down and do because they have to. You know, if you're lucky, they might just refuse to do it outright, but they definitely don't sit down and do it because they want to, and certainly not for a minute more than they actually have to. Okay, so let me know how you've been going this year. Like, are you already feeling tired and stressed? Do you feel like there's not enough hours in the day to get all these things done? And if so, do you need to cut back your intended work so it's more manageable and enjoyable and supports mastery a bit more? You know, so do you need to start a bit slower instead of launching straight into your full-time schedule? Do you need to start paying a little less attention to grade levels, which are pretty arbitrary, and instead start paying attention to moods and enthusiasm, which are a really good indicator of how much your kids are learning and also whether you're on the right track with what you're using? So Deborah said that she made the mistake of forcing learning this morning. So first day back of homeschooling, she wanted to have more structure because last year we had none, and instead she got learning refusal, and it was no fun, and now she's stressed. Yes, and I've so been there before when we've had lots of time off, you know, when we've been traveling lots or something. It's like, okay, we've been going out and doing all of these things, but we haven't done any maths for a month. Okay, come on, let's sit down, do it. I don't care what mood you're in. You know, all those sorts of things where you're disregarding the child, and instead you're going, no, you need to do what I say you do, and you need to do it now. And it's never really worked. So I've got a couple of kids who will just go along and cooperate to humor me. But like I said, they won't put a great deal of effort in, and not for a minute longer than they have to. I've got one kid who just goes completely off his nana. And one who will just say, Mum, that's just a ridiculous idea. And no, I'm not doing that now. I'm going off to do my German or play my violin or whatever else she feels like doing. So yeah, it's always an interesting ride when you listen to your kids. All right, so Tabitha, sorry about that, said it's good to hear, as I naturally feel that this is a way to learn but feel pressure to tick the boxes. Yeah, I mean, and I have a to-do list every week. I write it down in my planner at the start of the week, but it's more of a reminder to me that I need to do, that the kids need me to do these certain things with them. So if we get to the stage where we're not doing everything on the list consistently for week after week, then I have to stop and look at why that is. Is that because we're too busy doing other things? Is it because it's too much work? Is it because I've taken on too many non-homeschooling things to do? There's all sorts of, you know, have we been sick? Are people tired? Are we just using the wrong resources and we're all dreading sitting down to do it, so we tend to avoid it? Like, there's so many reasons that it can be, but that checklist helps me work out that there is a problem and then sit down and look at what that problem is. But I don't actually get stressed if I don't do it all, because it's more of a guide for me, if that makes sense. So Pamela said they haven't started yet. Victorian term starts tomorrow. Oh, so do you get pupil free day for teacher training or something? The Queensland kids might have that too, actually. I don't know. I haven't seen any kids, so they could be back. So Pamela was planning on starting Monday, but was planning to dive right in. Yeah. So by all means, give it a shot if your kids are keen. And I mean, a lot of the time, if we've had a bit of time off, then they're keen to get back into it, and we can often get quite a bit done in the first day or two, but that enthusiasm drops off. You know, after a couple of days of hard work, they're going, okay, I think I'd prefer to just do a couple of things today and then read a bit. But yeah, if you've got the enthusiasm there, harness it, use it, take advantage of it, but just know that it might drop off a little bit. You might not have such enthusiasm, you know, the 10th day of bookwork that you start. Yeah, so Renelle said it's about the journey. Wouldn't it be terrible to learn something but have such a terrible experience doing so that everyone loses their desire to learn new things? Quality over quantity for sure. So that is an awesome comment. I know at school I was, you know, gifted in maths. So I did an accelerated program in high school. I did high school in 5 years instead of 6 years, and they accelerated me further in maths. So I did all of high school maths in 4 years instead of 6. And by the time I got to doing year 12 maths, which is when I should have been in year 10, I was so over it, and I did really badly. I got terrible marks. I passed it, but only barely. And it turned me off maths. Before then, I would have said I really liked it and I wanted to go on and do something with maths. And then when it came time to choose a university degree, one of my main drives was to do something that didn't have much in the way of maths in it. So yeah, been there, done that. It didn't work. And I've forgotten most of it now anyway. The kids ask me for help and I have to look up how to do it. So Pamela's doing the first full year, haven't started after a summer break before. Yeah, so if you've had a big summer break too, it's good to sort of ease into it gently, because especially after you had a lot of freedom all the time, it can be quite difficult to go back to, you know, sitting down and doing structured things for a few hours each day. So Lisa teaches a morning basket to her kids with priority items and games and experiments and art projects, read aloud. Yeah, so all the fun. So that keeps all the joy in their homeschool. And then in the afternoon, they do the individual subjects, maths, spelling, etc. Yeah, morning baskets are a fantastic idea. I've never really been organised enough to have one. Although now we're back in a house, I might be able to do it, because it's a bit hard to do it when, you know, you don't have a basket or anywhere to keep your stuff reliably. But yeah, that's a really good way to start off too, because you're starting off with the fun things and it's a good way to get everyone together. And then you've got that natural transition from getting ready in the morning and free time to doing your work. Yeah, so Renelle said the first couple of weeks is easing back into some rhythm and starting some good habits. Definitely. And Sarah McKenzie says planning is guessing. Yes, I love that post. I know the post you're talking about. So there are goals, but we don't get stressed if we don't reach them all. Yeah, and you can look at all those other quotes like, what is it? If you reach for the stars but don't make them, at least you'll still hit the moon, and, you know, those slightly corny things, but they're all true. So, you know, if you set some big goals and you make it 3/4 of the way, well, you've still got fantastic progress. So we just need to appreciate the progress. So Faith is doing a week of not back to school excursions. Today was the cinema and games arcade with a quiet afternoon of free play and reading together with our own books. See, that's fantastic. That sounds like a fun thing. We have done things like we went to the water slides in Darwin one year. I can't even remember now, but we've gone and had picnics, we've gone to swimming holes, and yeah, just having that appreciation that while everyone else is sort of back to the grindstone, we're going, hey, you know, we get to set our own schedule and do our own thing. It's fantastic. So Giselle, hi Giselle, says maintaining, and I hope I pronounced that right, maintaining momentum by honouring where they're at. So it's her job to intuit and observe where they're at. And I can't intuit if I'm hauling myself over the coals for not staying on schedule. Yes, so that is perfect. So look at where your kids are and meet them there, instead of going, no, that's not good enough. You know, you've got to be further and faster, and other kids your age are doing this, and all that sort of stuff. So another area this can be hard with too, if you're keeping to your own schedule, is when the well-meaning family members or strangers will say, oh, so what are you doing in maths? And your kids say that they're years behind what they, you know, should be doing at school. So yeah, if you find that's a problem, then there's lots of resources out there that don't actually have grade levels, which is fantastic. So like I said, we're going to start Math UC through Maths Australia in the next week or two. Their levels are like alpha, beta, gamma, based on the Greek letters. So there's no grade level. And when my kids did the placement test, I was saying which grade levels is for, because they never ever want to be put under what they would be in if they were at school, because they're a bit competitive like that. But I just said it's completely different. I don't know. You know, each level is a level of skills, and when you master that, you go on to the next one. It's not actually grade level. So it was fantastic for that, because they weren't able to tell, but also too, if anyone asks, which no one really asks us anymore, but if anyone asks, we can say, oh, you know, we're doing a special homeschool maths program, and it doesn't have grade levels, so we're not really sure. So yeah. All right, so it looks like the comments are done, the questions are done, the rain has pretty much stopped, which is fantastic. I'm getting a bit hot in here now because it's still really hot, and I had to turn the aircon off because it's really noisy and clunky. But yeah, I'll finish up. So thank you for turning up and watching and chatting, and for your questions. I've had a really great time. I like going live, and I've missed doing it. It's been quite a while. So I hope you've had a really good time too. And if you like what you heard today, there's much more like it in my course in Zero to Homeschool. And there is a sale on until tonight. So I'll drop that link in the comment if you want to join me. Now, someone was saying earlier about work refusal, and I've actually got a workshop included in there that that is all about work refusal. So I did that a year or so ago, based on requests from people in the course. They wanted to know how to deal with work refusal, so I went through what it is and the different types and lots of methods on how to deal with it. But yeah, the details on there are on the link that I put down. So if you want to have a look, go for it. All right, so thank you again for watching, and glad you managed to turn up after my tech mistakes, and I will see you next time. Have a great year. We'll start to your year.